Anyway, moving on, I want to welcome to the show our guest for this segment, House Majority Leader, Representative Al Carlson, who served alongside the recently passed on Senator Stenehjem. Representative Carlson, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Rob.
Day of mourning, I think, is probably the best way to put this. All politics off to the side. It seems as though North Dakota's taken a hard hit with this.
Well, I tell you what, it really has. He was a true public servant. He, besides being a great friend, he's the one guy who never forgot who he worked for when he went to the Capitol every morning.
You know, one thing that
it was always about the people and the citizens when he went to work.
You know, one thing that I've grown to appreciate about Bob Stenehjem are the stories. Everybody seems to have a funny story about Bob, that just illustrated him. I was wondering if maybe you had one you could share with him, or maybe could share some reflections on serving with him as a fellow leader in the legislature.
Well, he had a very dry sense of humor, so he could pull your chain pretty hard if he wanted to. You'd be dead serious, you thought, and then in the end he was just joking. So there's numerous things that he would do in it, but he had what his good sense of humor is what everybody will remember. The guy just had a love for life, and it's still kind of a shock. I'm having a hard time realizing that I won't walk across the hall and he'll be sitting there to greet me when I come in his office.
It's
I really, my prayers go out to the family. This is a tragedy, and it's really a tough deal for them. And they really got to rally together now. And he's got a son that's had a surgery up in Alaska, and hope he turns out fine. And thank God the grandson was fine. But it's just a tragedy for the state because he was really a good public servant.
You said that you saw Senator Stenehjem as a partner. Obviously, you guys worked hand in hand during the last session, and even sessions before that. I know you weren't in leadership in previous sessions, but just working with Bob Stenehjem, he seemed to be somebody that Republicans and Democrats alike could always seem to find common ground with.
Well, he was also, his word was his bond. If he said something was going to be a certain way, that's exactly how it was. You never had to question or wonder twice. If he told you that was the deal, that was the deal. And by a partner, I mean, he and I both had to have the consensus of our caucuses for things to pass. So we did our best. Our job was to try and reach an agreement ourselves and then go out and sell it to our caucuses. And he was very good at that, and I think it was a very successful partnership. He's really going to be missed. His level head and his calm demeanor are going to really be missed. He was the glue that held that whole Senate together.
Definitely, and anything anything you're hearing, I know some are sort of the first thing you do is you scratch your head and you ask yourself how this could have happened. I know we've got a police report that's being reported in the Associated Press so far, but I think we're still not real clear on how this happened, how it was that he crossed the Senate line. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not, and I think that it's really going to have to come from his son. His son, who was riding in the car with him, is going to have to recollect the best he can, and I don't think anybody has really had a chance to sit down with him yet face-to-face from the family and say, tell me what happened. And it's a sure glad no one else, at this point in time, I understand one of the passengers who is not related is not doing very well. But the other two family members are both going to be okay. Thank God for that. Bob was a good driver, a safe driver. He never was a speedster. So who knows what happened? Maybe the good Lord someday will straighten that out for us.
Have you? The family obviously has to be taking this hard. Have you spoken with them? Are the Stenehjems holding up okay?
Yeah, it's really a struggle for them. But I talked to Brother Al. Called me yesterday afternoon. He called me. I've known him for years, and he used to serve with him. And he said, "I wanted you to hear it before you heard it on the news." And he explained as best he could, and he just had a hard time telling me about it. And I said, "Tell me you're kidding. This is it's a terrible, bad joke, but tell me it's not true because I expect Bob Stenehjem to come home." And he said, "I can't tell you that because it happened." And
yeah.
We don't know I haven't heard officially when the funeral's going to be yet. But you only get a handful of people who understand the word public service, who go out there knowing that when they do things, they're doing it for their fellow citizens, and they're always keeping them on the front burner. And Bob was one of those guys. And he put together a deal that probably wouldn't have happened if he hadn't worked on the compact with the Native Americans for drilling oil on the Fort Berthold Reservation. He was a big part of that. He was always interested in public safety and the highways, making sure our money was properly spent, that we always matched the federal money. Those were probably two of the biggest things he worked on over the years, and they were both successful.
You know, I think when you hear things from you, who obviously in the same political party as Senator Stenehjem, and then you hear things from the other side of the political aisle, one common theme throughout it, and you said it here on the program, was that if Bob said something, that was the way it was going to be. His word was his bond, as you put it. That's a pretty rare commodity at times in politics.
You bet it is, and that was really crucial to his success. Because there were times when there were very small majorities over in the Senate, and he had to work even more closely sometimes than you'd like to with the other side. And he always treated them with respect. He let them know what was going to happen. They can disagree on policy, but you shouldn't disagree on personality. And he tried to keep that out of there. You know,
well, I know
it's unfortunate, Rob, and it's come to my mind as I've sat here reflecting on him the last couple of days. A lot of times we don't say enough nice things about people when they're with us. We kind of tend to rally and think about them when they're gone. But he really was a good legislator. And he was a great dad and a grandpa and a husband. And we just need to keep that whole family in our prayers in the days to come as his body comes home from Alaska. They have to deal with the reality that he's really not coming home. This is a tough time for the Stenehjem family.
Certainly, and I know there's going to be questions down the road about succession, and obviously the state still needs to go about its business, but those questions are for later. Right now, I think it's worthwhile just to take some time and try to remember the person he was, the public servant he was, and the sort of man that Bob Stenehjem was. Representative Carlson.
To him, his family was key. That always came first. If you talk to him, it was always about the family, and that's an admirable trait for any man.
Definitely. Representative Carlson, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time today to help us remember Senator Stenehjem.
You bet. Thank you very much.
All right, that was Representative Carlson. Before we go to a break here, let's sneak Gabe in. Gabe, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Say, Al, I just wanted to pass on my condolences to you. I briefly got to meet Bob at the last Republican convention, and I mean, just what a wonderful guy. He was a comic walking into the room. I just, absolutely, lit me up in so many ways, and I'm going to miss him, despite the fact that I didn't know him that well, but I'm going to definitely miss him.
I think a lot of people in the state are going to miss him, Gabe, and I think that's maybe one of the unique things about living in a state like North Dakota is something like this. I think is a lot more personal for us than maybe a lot of other places. Figures like Bob Stenehjem, Al Carlson, the people who lead the state, they are very accessible. They live in our communities. They work in our communities. They're a lot closer to us than maybe in a lot of other states. And so when something like this happens, when we lose somebody like this, I think it's definitely more of a blow. Thanks for the call, Gabe. Appreciate it. We're going to keep moving here on the Scott Hennon Show. Open phones after the break, 855-200-1776 if you'd like to join the program. Coming up at 3:08, State Representative Betty Grandy's going to be on, talking about a legal challenge to an abortion bill passed in the past legislative session. We'll get the scoop on that coming up straight ahead on the Scott Hennon Show. I'm Rob Port, sitting in.